in the United States during the COVID-19 pandemic. With us is Heather Taylor, who is a Director of Strategic Campaigns for Bread for the World. Heather, good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So first of all, tell us what Bread for the World is and who funds you and whether you're a charitable organization.
So Bread for the World is a collective Christian voice. We represent denominations from all over the country who come together to urge Congress to pass legislation specifically to address poverty and hunger here at home in the United States and abroad. We are a 501c3. That means we are a charitable organization, and we take donations from individuals, from churches, from congregations, and foundations.
So how many Americans are actually going hungry or face food insecurity right now? Do we see that number go up during the pandemic?
We see the number skyrocket, unfortunately. Since this pandemic has begun, there are estimates that show that food insecurity in American households has doubled, and that childhood hunger, in fact, has quadrupled since it began. And there are some estimates, think I saw one most recently, that up to 54 million Americans could suffer from food insecurity by year end.
Now, let's get some definitions here. What is the difference between hunger and food insecurity? Are they the same thing? Are those two different things? And what's the difference here?
People do tend to use them interchangeably. And I think that when we talk about hunger in America, most often we're talking about food insecurity, meaning that people are actually skipping meals, that they are rationing, that they don't necessarily know where their next meal is coming from. When we talk about hunger, at least at Bread for the World and ending hunger, generally what we talk about is the vulnerability to hunger. That means that people's income, their finances are strained. They may not be able to purchase foods. It also speaks to food deserts. So in communities of color, for example, there often are not good grocery stores that are nearby that people can get to buy nutritious foods, fruits and vegetables. So that's what we talk about when we mean hunger. But in everyday speak, we generally do not split the difference, but there is a difference certainly when we talk among policymakers and researchers.
Now, has the skyrocketing number of hunger and food insecurity been mostly because of job losses from adults, or is it because children are not getting the food that they normally would, the breakfasts and lunches that they would get at schools, or is it both?
It has been a combination, and we know that children do depend on their parents. We know that the unemployment rate has continued to skyrocket in this country. Nearly 40 million Americans have filed for unemployment, and the rate is not going down. And so that means that households are struggling to put food on the table. We also know that schools have been shut down, and so that impacts school meal programs. Now, the government has been responsive, and I do want to acknowledge that by putting programs in place, extending child nutrition waivers to ensure that children can continue to receive meals during the pandemic. But we still have to do more. And specifically, we are urging Congress to increase SNAP, that's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or formerly food stamps, by 15%. That is the monthly benefit. And this is what we believe can make a tremendous impact. One, because it's the most effective anti-hunger program in America. Two, as we've just discussed, the economy is suffering, and it's going to take perhaps even up until 2021 to recover. So we need to invest in programs that are going to help families sustain themselves over the longer term. And three, it is a smart strategic investment. Studies show that for every dollar invested in the SNAP program stimulates the economy by $1.50. And if ever there was a time when we needed to make investments in programs to stimulate our economy, certainly it is now. So that means that it is not only the right thing to do, and we do believe in fulfilling our moral obligation as Americans, but it is hands down the smart thing to do.